All right, we're live. So,
Bada boom.
bada boom. Gonna get our brand ready here for 3 minutes after the top of the hour. Oh, I did
It's
not
been a
do a
long
no.
time.
I should have been. I should have done a new opener for season 2, and I did not.
Well, that's something you're going to have to do
Oh,
next week now, aren't you? Note to self:
note to
put
self.
the banner on. Yeah,
Yes, a new
I keep
show opener.
I keep tweaking um Wicked Women's one as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to.
yeah. I need to do a new show opener for us. We are 2
I
minutes
love
out
the music
from.
though. Don't
You
change
love
the
what?
music. Don't
Oh, the
change the
music.
music
Yeah.
though.
I don't think I want to change the music. I like it.
I love the music. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
Here.
Not turn this down because I cannot see the comments here, so I'm going to have to. Oh, there we are. Hello to two of
There's
my
that. Hey,
favorite
Carlene.
people. Hey
Hi, Sandra.
guys. Hi Sandra. Hi Carlene. Now I can see the comments.
All right.
That's cool.
I wore a nice vest today, but you can't
You
see the
do.
pattern
You can't
in the
see.
dark.
Sometimes the mystery is better.
That's right. That's right. It's very Scottish. So,
Scott. Hi Alison. We are glad
hey,
to be back.
Allison. We are what?
I think they've missed us, Scotty.
I hope so.
I bloody hope so.
It's nice to be missed.
It was you, it was me, it was you, it was me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's kind of how it went for a couple of
It
weeks there.
was, yeah, totally. Totally.
We were going to come back the week that Uncle Dave died. And then, of course, he died on a Monday. And by Tuesday, I was like, I ain't doing this.
No.
Can't do
And
this
then
today.
I'm here now, but
Uh-oh.
I
Butch
might
froze
not be
up.
there
There
the
we go.
whole time.
We've got a
Yeah,
few
it keeps
seconds,
coming.
Wendy. And we're going to go dark. So let's see. Where's my...
Get the
my
music,
Robertson.
baby. Get the music.
Okay, we're going to go dark for about 10 seconds or so, folks, and then we'll be back. So stand by. I'm going to remove you, Wendy. Sit tight. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Good afternoon. Good evening, Wendy. How you
Good
doing?
evening. Isn't it nice to be back? And I have to say, I love that music.
I do too.
It's so good to hear it.
It is. I don't think either of us have listened to that. Well, I play it, the opener, in between
Like you do.
Intrepid Radio and the Captain's Cabin.
And every
Just as a
time you
teaser.
play it, I'm like,
Yes. It's so good to see you.
it's really nice to be here. And I have missed our Tuesday night's rendezvous. And everybody's been saying to me, like they do about Strangely Us, when are you and Mark coming back? And now I'm getting, when are you and Scotty coming back? And I'm like, we keep trying. We keep trying. But then something happens and we didn't. So it's really good to be back. And it's so nice to see you and matching with you as well.
Yes, look at that. Red. I got a little red in here today too. So.
Red, red.
Yes. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. It'll come back to me. So, everybody, by the way, welcome to Robertson. It has been several weeks since we've been on, and we kind of stumbled into calling it our in between season. We did 27 episodes, which is one episode longer than a standard television series for a season. And so we did 27 episodes, and we've had about 8 or 9 weeks off. And we're just calling this officially episode 1 of season 2. And hopefully it will be a barn buster for you and you'll enjoy it. It's awfully good to see Wendy again. Not that I haven't seen her at all during the last 8 or 9 weeks, but it's good to see you in this setting. So,
well, I'm not in my usual setting because actually, as you know, I'm sort of with Mum
that's
right now.
true.
But
who's looking at the background?
It's like, I think my mum she's like, no, put the pictures in the right way. But yes, Colin, we were having withdrawals every week. Scotty and I would have a chat like this. So
yeah,
should we do it Tuesday or?
How you
and
doing
then Monday,
this week? You think should we try it this week?
Monday night would happen, or Tuesday, and we'd be like, we're not coming back.
Right. And so, a little business. What do you think of my background? I've been told that my background isn't as good as the old one.
See, the only thing I would say is the swords. I would change the shape so they're like that. But that's just me.
All right.
Because of feng shui,
a little V,
like,
behind my head.
Or
like
maybe just there.
Here, show me. Come over here and reach back there. And
I know. I wish I could. What you need is a picture of Uncle Dave up, though.
Yeah, I should get a picture of Uncle Dave.
A black and white photograph on a Sunday. You should put him up right at the back,
yes.
So he joins in the show. Because even though Uncle John is there, it isn't Uncle Dave.
Yes. Now it's interesting. Speaking of Uncle Dave, and I know this is not our topic, but we have not talked about Uncle Dave on this show because he passed in the in between, and somebody told me just yesterday, very dear friend of Dave's, who's known him for a very long time, and a woman friend of hers that knew Dave, and they were all very close, and she was working somewhere. I think it was at a bookstore the other day, and she said something, and I hope I get this right. She said something about, she says, and Dave chose that moment to do an appearance. And she said she looked over, and it wasn't just a corner of the eye thing and a double take. Over in one of the chairs, it was either a coffee shop or it was a bookstore. And there was Uncle Dave sitting in the easy chair, sleeping and snoring. And he was there for quite a bit of time, but it was actually him. Quite a bit of time, meaning I didn't ask the length of this, but it could have been, anywhere from, think enough time for the brain to go, is that really him? Yes, that's really him. And I don't know that she walked over, but she looked and she said, that was Dave. He was there, and he was wearing a pair of like a fluorescent yellow or green tennis shoes.
Wow.
Which my friend who told me this story secondhand said that made her laugh because he had a pair of those that nobody really saw that he used every now and then and for his feet. And so it was interesting. So there was a Dave sighting by someone. My kids have had dreams.
I'm still waiting. I keep saying to him, but I feel very lucky that Dave and I actually did a Robertson.
Yes.
And while I was in Calgary, and, he and I just flowed, and it was, I'm very blessed. And I remember what he used to say about Robertson. He used to say, it's what was it? It's an awesome show. It should get more viewers than it does. It needs to be
Yes.
promoted. He was always so pro, and I think
Yes.
he said he used to listen to it in the car, or he would watch it later. And I'm always so grateful, so grateful to have
Yeah.
known that man.
And the day he took over, I was having tech difficulties over here.
I know.
And he happened to be in the audience and said, Dave, come in here and take over.
He was like,
And
okay.
And I'll try to figure out the tech.
I
And
wants me a bit of Wendy.
I wants me a bit of Wendy. And that's Uncle Dave for you.
Bless
So
his heart.
this is, I guess, here on this show officially our farewell, Uncle Dave. We'll see you again.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, my kids have a couple of my kids have had dreams of him that were visitation dreams. We'll talk about that kind of thing on another show.
He's working his way through everyone.
Yeah. I think he was appearing to people who needed to see him.
Yeah.
And like you and I, we've wanted, but we haven't needed.
No.
He appeared to my son Sam and also to my 11-year-old daughter.
It's gorgeous.
And so to Sam, he said he was standing out at the end of a dock, and Sam saw him there, and he's looking at a big lumbering pirate ship with all the sails. And Sam described it as a white, he said the ship was like illuminated. It was white with gold fixtures and these silky silver sails. And here's Dave at the end of the dock, and he's looking up at it. And Sam walks out to the end of the dock, stands next to Dave and looks at him. And Dave doesn't really say anything directly to him, but you can see Dave's expression even. A little bit of a cherubic smile. And he looks up and he kind of goes, "Fair winds are blowing for a blessed voyage." And then Sam woke up. And so there was that. And then to my daughter, Rowan, all he did was appear and tell her he loved her. Gave her a hug and told her he loved her. And she woke up. So those are contacts. And we'll maybe talk about that kind of thing sometime. So, and that's all.
We thought about when we come back, because we talked about many subjects, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We can, because we said we want to come back with a bit of a bada boom.
Bada boom.
We wanted to pick a subject that everybody could relate to. And also, when you start talking about it, people go, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there was a few subjects that would have, which would have been quite juicy. And
we do things like, let's save that one for another time. Or, maybe that's too hot a topic, and things like that is what we were doing. So,
but this topic we thought was quite a good one to start back with.
Poignant, good one, and I think it's something that we all deal with from time to time, if not have to strive with for long periods of time. And we just simply called this show, and you'll know where we're going with it, Two's Company, Three's a Crowd. I have one way in my mind I want to introduce this, but Wendy, you can slap me down and just jump in anywhere you want on this and give your take. But as Wendy and I were talking about this, it's those things you generally hear, the stereotypical person that can be the three's a crowd. You always hear about mother-in-laws wanting to get involved in relationships. Either his mother saying, you're not good enough for my boy, and let me teach you. And then, or her mother saying pretty much the same thing to the guy. And it's not just holding the opinion, it's the interference that it can create. And sometimes it's just that subtle influence of knowing that there's that third party out there in a mother-in-law. And I don't hear many father-in-law stories
Well,
about.
I was just thinking of Robert De Niro in the film Meet the Fockers.
Oh yeah, Meet the Fockers. Yeah,
Because if you think about it, when you think of that movie, Meet the Fockers, he was so bad. I
I'm
mean, he
watching
even injected truth serum into that.
Yes.
And he was like, you're not in the circle of trust, the circle of trust. I think it can be family members. I also think it can
Yes.
be friends. And
Sure,
I
it can
also
be.
think, I mean, obviously, like when you think of a third person, sometimes people think it's a sexual romantical
Mm-hmm.
interference
Doesn't
because we're
always have
talking
to be.
about outside influences
Yes.
coming in and making disharmony in your own relationship or your own life. Because even if you're not in a relationship, but you've got other people saying, what about this? You should be doing this, or picking you apart. People love to put their 10 cents in or 10p in or
Yes.
whatever. But when we
You know
looked
what
at
I
that,
would do if I were you?
exactly, you
I
should be
hate that
doing
line.
this. Third parties who consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or unknowingly interfere with a relationship are usually motivated to maintain their own self-esteem
Mm-hmm.
or manage emotions of fear, frustration, anger, or guilt. So what that's saying is whether it's a conscious effort on their part, and with some people it is,
Yeah.
and with other people it's not, because you and I were talking today about our life and where we've had other people interfere.
Yes.
And you know, I use this one as an example. I was in a relationship. There was an ex-wife from hell, and constant interference. You know, messages, phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
toxic drama. It got to a point where I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. The police were
Yep.
involved. It was awful, and it was like, when is this going to go away? And apart from actually putting them on a plane and sending them out of Mongolia,
Yep.
it didn't really happen. But it's like it ruined it. It helped to destroy
Mm-hmm.
the relationship. You know, I mean, it came to a point that she would even follow me. She'd even follow me
Oh my goodness.
when I took Henry for a walk. She also, because I live above a shop.
Oh, I remember
Do
who
you
this
remember that?
is. I know
Yeah,
who this is.
and then literally I came out of my front gate and I was walking around the corner with Henry, and this woman was standing there staring at me, and I was like, and then I realized who it was, and her family were in the coffee shop opposite. And I was walking Henry, and then I saw them, and they were circling, 5 people in a car, and I'm on my own, circling and circling. And I had to go and knock on, sadly, my late friend's door and say, please help me get home, because they could have done anything to me. Some people just don't know when to butt out
Right.
or leave things alone, because maybe they want to cause trouble. Maybe they want to split you up. Absolutely, she wanted to. 1000%.
Mm-hmm. I have had people like that in my experience. Some of them, I don't know that their goal was and this is a little different scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The goal was not necessarily to split us up, but to control us, have us under her influence. In this case, it was a mother-in-law, my former wife, and her mother-in-law was. I remember once she had loaned us money to start a business. We're talking 1990, somewhere right in there, 91, and the details are unimportant. What she had done, though, was loaned us money to start a business and get things going well. And it wasn't a lot of money by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
And so get that idea. It wasn't like, oh, she loaned you a couple $100, $1,000 or something. No, she loaned us enough to get something going, open up an office, and all of that to lay the groundwork to say she was somebody that here's a good example. There was one Thanksgiving we were at their house, and she was drinking, and it was after the meal, and everybody's kind of mingling and back and forth, and I sat down in the living room to watch the football game with all the guys, and everybody ended up vacating for a minute, and she came out, and she looks at me, and she's got her drink. It's in a coffee cup because she had her thumb over it. I remember that. And she had vodka in there. And she looks around to make sure nobody's around, and she goes, I have you under my thumb. And she used her thumb. And I went, oh, yeah? I said, good for you. And I know all the brothers and sisters in that family were all like, you can't talk to our mom that way. Just if she says the sky is purple, you go, what a beautiful shade of purple. Because that's the way she was with all of them. And I just didn't do that. I said, I'm not playing that game with you. And she was heavily influential in our relationship. And it was not in a good way. So there are people that come in and they try to do that. They try to, they either want to steer your ship in a certain way that they think is the right way to go. Or when Rainey and I started dating, she had a friend of hers that was upset that she wasn't spending as much time with Rainey wasn't spending as much time with her anymore. And she would constantly badmouth and constantly, never to my face, but it was always somebody that was out there. There was a third party that was trying to dissuade Rainey from getting involved with me. And that would be 18 years ago now. But so there's all different categories of people that want to get out there and want to come in and want to try to put influence in one side. And sometimes you would confront them and they would just deny, oh, no, I would never do that.
But sometimes you don't even know they're doing it, right?
Yes.
Because they're your friend or they're your sister or they're your,
yes.
something like that. And the thing is, I have to put these on to actually see the comments. And literally,
Barbie D.
What happens if you don't know that this person has, and often with our friends, if they're single and then maybe they're a little bit unhappy about that, and you start having someone in your life and you're happy, you're contented, everything is going well, and the other person sees it and says, well, I want you all to myself. I don't want to share you with someone else. This person's upset the equilibrium, yes. And it's like, in a perfect world, in an ideal world, there would be room for everybody and everybody would understand each other. But sometimes you have to have boundaries. You have to have a boundary to say, this is so much, and then not. Yes. And I think what happens is boundaries, and when there's something going wrong, because that, as I said, the equilibrium starts to change and you're like, you're resentful. You're arguing, yes. You're snappy, and then someone puts something in your head, and then you think about it for a while and you go, well, maybe they were right. Maybe they've got a point. And then someone else puts it, it's like, why does someone want to come in and unsettle something? What are they after? Are they being selfish? Are they being, they want what you've got? Because we all know, and I'm going to use this as an example. Sometimes another man will want someone else's girlfriend, so he'll actually cause enough strife in that relationship, and then she'll split with him. And she'll split with the guy, and then the other one who caused the strife comes in and says, oh yeah, but I want to be, because we remember, the situation many years ago, I was with somebody and sadly the relationship failed, and I had a lot of people in my ear pouring stuff into my ear, and I was very different back then. I was, very going through a vulnerable time, incredibly vulnerable, and I had all these people pouring this in my ear, and I went, well, maybe they're right. Absolutely they're right.
Yeah.
And this person seemed to be more supportive and more on my side. And I would never let you be treated like this. And I would never do things like that. And I thought they were just a friend, not realizing they had an ulterior motive. So after they put the seeds of doubt, which then grew, I then acted on it and left. And then this person went in for the kill. And actually, and you just look back and you go, now you see it as there was a plan. The plan
Yes.
was to actually wheedle the other one out, whether they wanted you or whether they want your own time back. And it can feel difficult, if your best friend is dating someone and all of a sudden you haven't got all their time and attention anymore, or your partner's working all the time and then they're coming home and they're bringing work with them,
You
and
got a little freeze. There we
it,
go.
it comes back. And I just think that when you look at it, it's not just one straightforward about outside influences, because you've also got the work. We were talking about work today. Like, what if you work from home and you're constantly using this to talk to people, and then
Yes.
in the evening they're still, it's like your partner's going, can you not stop this so that we've got
Yeah.
some time
Can you
together?
please move on from that for the day? And you know, I had a roommate once. He was a very good friend, still a very good friend. We haven't seen each other face to face for about 15 years now, but we talk all the time. And he's just a few years younger than I am. And we were roommates back when I was 28 and he was 24, I think it was. And um, but we never had that dynamic between us that was ever wrong. I remember once I shambled in one Sunday afternoon after going out on a blind date on a Friday night. And I walk into the house and it's Sunday afternoon now. He hasn't seen me or heard from me. He's laying on the floor in his white undies watching the morning. Oh, it's morning news. It was late in the morning. And he's got a cup of coffee in front of him. And he looks over his shoulders, hair's sticking up. He got out of bed that way. And he goes, "Where have you been?" And I said, "I was out." And he says, "I was about ready to call, to have the posse go looking for you." But we made a big joke out of it, but he was never one to intrude, and I was never one to intrude on him. And so we had a good friendship there. However, I did have friends that intruded on relationships of mine. They took my time. They wanted me to do stuff with them all the time. And I said, I got the Bonnie was her name. I got Bonnie. And no, Bonnie and I are going to go do this, or Bonnie and I are going to go to that. Oh, you never do anything with the boys anymore. Come on. And you get the pussy whipped label and stuff like that. I go, now you guys, now you can stop. I said, every last one of you, when you get a girl, are the same way. You go spend your time with the girl, and the guys, we do our own thing. We'll become widows for a while, so I had friends. I actually had a good group of friends, guy friends, two or three of us, that precipitated a breakup between me and somebody else.
Yeah.
Because they were like, "Look, dude, you can't, yeah, and you gotta, and you gotta end this thing, and look at us. So you're too young to be away from all your guy friends, your troop. I can't remember, a wee band of brothers." And I ended up breaking things off with this woman, and it was not a nice breakup. And
No.
but and it was
And
interesting.
for her, it must have been difficult, because she must have noticed
She
the
knew the
difference.
source. I'm sure she knew the source.
She
This
knew
was
the difference. And it's like
yes,
there's a triangle of, you know, if it's your mother-in-law coming into a relationship, pouring poison in someone's ear,
yes,
or criticizing, or a father or a sibling. If it's a friend doing it, Now, they say friends last forever and boyfriends and girlfriends come and go. So do friends. Like friends that I knew friends 20 years ago that I'm not friends with now. So friends do come and go. And sometimes they don't last. It's a
Yep.
season, reason, lifetime. Sometimes they don't. And I do find that when you find that your life is being drained or made toxic or drama, and that person, you have to look at your boundaries and go, this is
Yeah.
overtaking my life. And also you have to tighten your boundaries by protecting what's future and say, look, we're buddies, or you're my mom, or you're my sister, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but this is my life, this is my relationship, and you
Yes.
are causing issues, and you need to, whether you know this or not, you need to give that respect and back off, because some behavior, if you don't reel it in, will just carry on and on and on.
Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you something here too. And this is, I am not one of those feeble idiot guys that go, oh yes, guys are so bad and we do the, I like that I usually turn off whoever's saying anything like that, because that's not the way I come across. I'm not like, hey, we bitches all stand together, those guys. That's not me. That's not why I'm saying this. But I've had two guys that were friends of mine during my time I've been married to Rainey, uh, tell me, use the phrase bros before hoes. And I said, what did you call my wife? I said, oh, come on, Scotty. It's just a phrase. It's just a figure of speech. And I said, no, it's not. And I
No.
said, I'm going to tell you something. And I told both of these guys the same thing. I said, I didn't marry my wife to be my roommate. I didn't marry my wife to have an occasional companion to fit around my bowling schedule with the guys, or hunting, or sword fighting, or drinking, or whatever you want to plug into that blank. I said, this is a person that I willingly attached myself to, and my friends either need to respect that, or my
100%.
friends need to back the hell off. I said,
100%.
and I said outright, there was one person distinctly I remember saying this to. I say, do not speak that way of my wife, because I have chosen to be here. And I said, I'll let you know if anything changes that, but it's not going to change because you say bros before hoes. I'm going to honor my wife and respect her and do the very best I can to make the very best relationship. Now, there's all kinds of other dynamics that we can talk about in building relationships and what makes relationships last and so on. This is a focused, very myopic, singular issue on this to say, when I had a friend, two different friends say that to me at different times, totally different, not even related to each other in our circle. And um, they were trying to use that line to say, hey, come on, you gotta come and do that thing with us. And I go, I really can't. I said, I'm not going to leave my wife home for that long or that period of time or here. And bros
Yeah, why
before hoes,
is that?
man,
Why do they encourage you to do things that
because they are.
they
I'm
know is
sorry, I
going to
thought you
cause?
were. If you weren't going somewhere with that, I was going to
Well, I was
jump
just
right
going to
in
say,
there.
like, why do people encourage people to do things when they know deliberately? Like, so for instance, you guys have Hooters bars out there. We don't.
Yep.
We don't have that here. But if they know, that, why don't we just go to the bar? And you know that when you come home, your wife's going to be going, really? And whatever. It's
She
like,
wouldn't care if I went to Hooters, by the way. It would
but
be
it's
the other
really
kind.
important. It's really important that you put you act and put a boundary up about the time you spend with the third party, the type of exposure that you give them. what behavior is acceptable from them
Right.
and what behavior is not acceptable. And you have to make it clear, this is a boundary. We are friends, you're my mother, whatever. But I'm going to use the friendship, like you talking about, we're friends.
Yeah.
This is my partner, this is my wife, my husband, or whatever. There's a boundary. And you must not step into that boundary, because if you do step in there and you do cause problems,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to give a damn. They're
Yeah.
not going to care about it. They're fine. But it's you that's going to suffer. Your relationship's going to suffer. Your life is going to suffer. So I can see what you're saying with those guys, because they weren't thinking about you. They were just thinking about
No, but
themselves.
I
What they
guarantee
wanted to
you,
do.
those same guys, when they got involved with a woman, they were gone from our group. They put
100%.
their energy into that group. And the
100%.
ones that did not, put the woman before or first, those are the ones that didn't last. And they didn't last in their relationships. I guarantee you, I'm not citing a specific example at the moment, but the men that don't do that. Now, I have been accused, even Rainey at times has said to me, boy, you got so many things that come before me. And of course, as you and I were talking this afternoon, um, I work for myself, and I have since Rainey's known me with a few short stints working other places. And so she has always been used to me having weird hours. When I have written my books, I'll be up all night sometimes. There's times where she once got me a hotel room in town for a week so I could go finish the book, get out of here and finish that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are times where we have separations that are imposed, but at the same time, she has been one that says there's sometimes I feel like you put your work before me, or the radio show comes before me, or this comes before me, or that. And my return argument was always, hey, I don't go anywhere. I'm always here. If I'm here, I'm downstairs. I'm working. I said, I don't go drinking with the boys. I don't go bowling. I don't go hunting with the boys. I don't go on those kinds of trips with the guys and do things like that. I said, there's a plethora of things I no longer do that because it was for you. I don't do the Renaissance Festival anymore. Things like that. So there are things I gave up. And she does see that light and get it. But the point I am making is that, guys, we sometimes can bury ourselves in things and not realize that it's the things we're doing, not necessarily the other friend. The things we do can be the third party, can be that other person. It can be if I get buried in, when I used to do a lot of political debating online, which I don't do a lot of that anymore. That would frustrate Rainey to hell. The third party in our relationship, the other woman, was my political debating, and I had to curtail that. And this is a few years ago now. I don't really get into that much anymore. And so there are a lot of things that can be used if it's a third person, another thing, things you're involved with, hobbies, friends you might have, interests you might have. When you commit to a woman, there are things that not everything stays the same. And this is what guys think. I can commit to this woman and I can still maintain doing everything I've done before. And you really can't. And the woman shouldn't expect him to lose his interests or his hobbies or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, or vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. We're talking male, female here. It can work the other way around too. But guys, we need to look at the things that might be something that we say, you know what? I did all of these things. Maybe these are the things I need to cut out, or I need to do things to show my wife that she is first. That I don't have this thing first. My buddy Jim isn't first for me anymore, or my group of friends over there, that's not first anymore. It doesn't mean I have to totally lose interest. in my friend Jim or my group. But it does mean that those things, by nature itself, take a backseat to the commitment and the love and the attention I give my wife. And sometimes there's not room for both, and you have to decide: do I want
I
my
mean,
wife?
my best
Yeah.
friend, she started doing a college course. It's 3 years. I think it's university, actually. We call it college, but university.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to talk every day, and we would spend hours with each other. No matter what, we'd even eat and do stuff and still be talking to each other.
Sure.
It was that kind of close relationship. And I would, each day be like, oh, I've got to ring her, I've got to tell her this, I've got to ring her, I've got to tell her. And we had that very close, almost like sisters, soul
Yeah.
sisters. She got me, I got her. And then you don't know, you can't pinpoint the day, the time, but things started to change after many years, many years. And it's taken me a while to even talk about this, but it's like, she is doing a long-term, she finishes, I think, next year university. She's completely busy with it all the time. She has a son that she takes care of, or rather he's off the nest now, but he's at home. And she has, I presume, a new boyfriend, or he's been around a while now.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, our time was gone. We didn't have much time together. There wasn't the bartering. There wasn't, let's just ring up and have this conversation, right?
Right.
So it became, you become resentful. And you don't want to be resentful, but because you feel resentful because someone's taken something that you thought was really precious. And that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Like, I can look at it from both sides of the coin, and you have to have a very healthy boundary to say, look, I'm going to set limits. This is the amount of time I'm going to give to Bob, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
amount of time I'm going to give to Jim. But this is the time I need to set aside to be with Fiona,
Right. Right.
my partner, right? You have to give boundaries, and you have to say, this is the amount of time, And the other thing as well is, if it's bringing drama, if it's bringing toxic stuff into your life, if you're feeling worn out or drained, or you're like, you haven't got time for yourself anymore, you have to actually turn around and go, hang on a minute, is this really doing me any favors?
Right. Right.
And also, you have to take care of yourself first. How can you have a healthy relationship if you're spreading yourself too thin? With third parties, as in family, the ones I can't stand are, you're married to someone or you're with someone, and they ring up, like the in-laws ring up, and they're talking about you or stuff, because the
Sure.
phone's like this, and they're like, yeah, and then I remember when I was married, seeing my ex-husband's phone, and there was all this conversation between him and his mum, and I knew nothing. I knew nothing about what they were talking about, which is fair enough. I didn't need to know, but one of it was like how he wanted to, he felt the marriage was over and he wanted out. Would she give him enough money so that he could leave and get a place? And I was
Oh
like,
my.
why wouldn't you talk about this with me? If you want to go, that's fine, but talk about it with me. But it was like, she never was supportive of the relationship. She was never there as a mother, but she was never supportive of the relationship. And I think sometimes parents can see their children's spouses as a threat, or
Yes.
they took them away from me, or they're not good enough for my partner. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, uh, um, there are. Um, I have one grown daughter who is married, and her twin sister has been with the same guy for about 6 or 7 years. And so they're pretty set in their ways, and they own a business together. My daughter, so they're together all the time. Um, but I have never seen any of the guys they've been with is somebody that should threaten me or
Mhm.
my time with my kids, because I look at that. My perspective has to be one as a dad of saying that there was only one time I stepped in between my daughter and somebody she was dating. And that was after many times of her coming to me and just crying and saying, it wasn't, he wasn't mistreating her. The treatment was more of a, I don't know what he wants to do, the commitment level, the this, the that, and so on. And I happen to know the guy. He was also a friend of mine, and I knew him, and which made it an awkward situation. A dad of a my daughter has a dad and a guy she's dating who are friends, and he was younger than I am. Don't worry, he wasn't my age, but um, there was one day I had to call him up, and I had to say, look, I am loath to do this. I said, you are my friend, and I love you, and I respect you on many levels. I said, but I got to put on a different hat right now. I got to put on the dad hat. And I said, and I basically told him, my daughter called crying. I said, it's none of my business. You can tell me to go take a hike, and I will. I said, but I need to know what your intentions are with my daughter. And I said, man, that sounds so cliche and so silly coming from me to you. I said, but I need to understand where you're coming from. If you want, you can tell me. If you don't, I'll accept that. I said, you're not going to make an enemy. I said, but please don't ever put me in a position where you would pit me against you because of my daughter. And we had a great conversation, and they ended up not staying together. It wasn't because of anything I said, but so that's the only time I ever saw myself being interfering. I didn't want to interfere. Hey, go ahead. You got something that's
I was
ready
just
to
going to say,
spill
like,
out. I want to see it
just
spill out.
came to mind. It was like, what about when you have you're friends with someone,
Yeah.
and then you meet a new friend, right? You meet a new friend, and you invite that person to come into your friendship. So, like, and that friend then takes your friend and goes off with them, and then you've lost both, right? Because
Yeah.
I know someone very close to me, she has had that. She has had a very close friend, and someone came in, like a new person they met, got on really, really well. And the next thing you know, they're best buddies. They're talking to each other all the time. They're new besties. And the next thing
Hey,
you
I
know,
like
it's like,
that friend of yours. I'm going to talk to him.
exactly, like and they went off. And I think what it is I had a similar situation myself with a friend of mine. I'd known her for some years, and then she met another friend of mine, and now they're thick as thieves, and I'm just kind of like on the outskirts. And I think human nature in itself is arguably at times very selfish, but
Yes.
also what's right for me. And I don't think that some people, there are some friends that you haven't seen for years, or they're busy working, you don't see a lot of them, and then you spend time with them and you think that was lovely, and they don't interfere in your life, and they don't make things difficult. And then you've got the other friends who are just either blatantly ignorant or just don't give a shit.
Right.
And they just go, well, what's the problem? What's the problem? And as you said, they encourage you to do things
Yes.
which would cause problems. They don't care about it. They just go
No.
back and and
They
and
care
also
about what they care about and what they want.
and a
And
lot of things people say, oh, since you've been dating them, you've changed, you don't come out anymore, you're always at with them, what's the
and you
matter
want to
with you?
just
Like,
say, well, duh, I'm dating a guy, you know?
or
No.
like, for instance, people change when they date as well. You're not the same person anymore.
Mhm.
Your
Mhm.
priorities have changed.
Yes.
Your view on things have changed. And if you allow someone to come in and threaten that relationship, then what does that say about you?
Yes.
If you allow that person to come in and, you know, damage, what would say, but, communicate, talk to them, say, look, there's this our relationship is under threat from you working too much and that being the third person, or your friends, or your mother,
Right.
or whatever. I cannot cope with this anymore. Talk to me about it. You've got to find a way to neutralize the damaging behavior, because if you don't, the other person's going to go, you'd rather spend time with them with me, so I'm just going to go and find someone else. Or why don't you go back and live with your mother, because I don't want you here anymore, you'd rather be with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens, and they pitch each other up. Like, how many times have you seen relationships where it's like, my mum said this, or my mum says you should do that, or I spoke to my mate about this and they said you could do that. If those outside influences are positive, productive, not selfish, and they're all like wonderful, but if they come in and they're negative, if they're damaging, if they're going to upset, and those same people that encourage you, come on, Scotty, don't worry about that, come out, you pussy whipped, they will go on to meet someone and then be in the same situation that you were in, and they go, yeah, but I know someone who used to just pop round once a week, maybe once every 10 days, have that sort of time, but they were dating someone, and the dating was more important, the girlfriend was more important. It was like, I spend every day with them, every night with them, and they really had time for their friend. And then that relationship went tits up, and the next thing you know, oh, I need you, I need help with this, can you, I'm leaning on you for help. And it's like, hang on a minute, you just walked away from this friendship and were doing your own thing. I wonder if you were to go into their relationship needing the things that they wanted, would they allow you in? Would that partner let you in? Because mostly they will not.
Yes.
They really, really won't. And also, like Deb talks about a good point. Yes, and screen time with a spouse is absolutely spending too much time on social media.
Yeah. And you know what? When you have a significant other or you're dating somebody, screen time has to start to take a diminishment.
Yeah.
The time that you spent as a single person out there doing screen time, be it searching for somebody or political debating or whatever it might be, those things naturally have to be curtailed when you're with somebody. You spend that same amount of time doing that, you're going to create a problem. Now, let me ask you a question. Let's look at the whole flip side of this. Have you ever been in a situation where you said, I need to insert myself into that? I need to almost like think of like intervention. I need to say something here. I need to make my opinion known here because it's damaging. And it's damaging that friendship. It's damaging that relationship that I'm watching my friend have. Are there times you would insert yourself? Now, most mother-in-laws, to use the stereotype, who come in and interfere in, let's say the stereotype again, their baby boy's marriage. You're not good enough for my baby boy, and let me show you how to do it, and all the things, the cliches that go with that. She probably thinks she's doing a good thing. She views herself as doing that, when we all know it's meddling, it's interference, it's a problem. What do you do when you see I'm going to use a personal example. My oldest son, back when he was 20, I don't know if he was 19 or 20 at the time. He was 20. And he was involved with somebody that I really felt, and I was as kind as I could be to this person. I wasn't fond of her, but I needed to be because of my son. Until we started seeing, and I would talk to Rainey and I would say, there's a problem brewing here. What do I do about it? Well, we stay out of it. It's not our business. That was our policy. But then this person, when I took Sam, you remember a couple of years ago when I took him down to Louisiana with me to work, it was this person he was involved with is the one I'm making a reference to here. And I took him from North Carolina to Louisiana to work with me for about 4 or 5 months out of town. And he and I rekindled our relationship, which was very good. And but he was homeless at the time. His girlfriend was homeless. They were living in his car. And then there were all kinds of details. Okay, now everybody listening, and you too, Wendy, think of either a child of yours or a best friend or a close friend. You find that this woman is saying, I want an open relationship. I want to sleep with whoever I want to, but I want you to be my mainstay, my main squeeze. And then while we were down there, the first week to 2 weeks we were down there in Louisiana, she was starting to put all the pressure on that, oh, I'm pregnant and it's your child. Oh. But this is after she wanted this open relationship and stuff. And all the guys we were working with, some of them were my friends. It was me. I said, Sam, you are being played right now. And we could see it as clear as day. But here was the hard part. At what point do you as a parent insert yourself into somebody else's relationship to say, you're on the wrong path? I'm not being the mother-in-law that's meddling. In that case, I was being the dad to saying, you are in dangerous water here, son. I can see it. What do you do? How do you suggest to people? How would you handle that? How would anybody else out there handle that?
I think
how are you discerning enough to know when?
That's a really interesting point, because we've all seen that situation in many different ways. I think you have to come across and say, look, I love you. And I am concerned about this behavior because I feel you deserve better than this. And I don't want to interfere, but my sister and I don't really do much in each other's lives in relationships, but I have a rule that if she's down, if she's low and she's ranting, I'll listen and support her. But I try not to interfere. But there are times that I have lost that and gone, for God's sake, you got to do this. You got to do that. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? And I think we're only human. So I think you're right. If you see someone getting used, getting abused, getting drained, getting, as you say, taken advantage of. And that person doesn't realize they're getting taken advantage of because they're just going, well, I don't see what the problem is. I think that when you sort of look in, sometimes our help or our words are seen as interference, but actually it comes from a place of care, especially where your son was concerned, to see him. And women are, that situation with Sam, I've seen that time after time with women and men. Oh, I'm pregnant. Or, trapping them in there, right?
Yep.
But I think sometimes you have to tell someone this is the wrong road. And if you carry on going down it, it's the road to nowhere. And you did the right thing. I feel you did the right thing. You did it in a very positive way. But how did he feel about it?
At first, he was very torn. When he went to Louisiana with me, she went to live somewhere else with a friend, because, like I say, they were living in their car. And I didn't even know that until very shortly before going to pick him up. He didn't want to tell me that. And he looked homeless. and everything about him and her looked like he had achieved a level of, even for his youth at age 20, a level of shabbiness that bespoke volumes about his situation. And um, there was drugs involved, not heavy duty drugs, thank goodness. But um, and so all of that to say, when I saw him, I I said, Sam, I'm going to take you down here with me. Let's be father and son. Together we will rule the galaxy. No, I wasn't like that. I am your father. No, I said, let's go work. We'll make some money and live in a trailer together for 4 or 5 months, and or a camper. And let's. And the first thing I did when we got down to Louisiana, we looked up a man cave, and it was actually called the Man Cave, place for him to get his hair cut and get stuff. And we got him some clothes, nothing super expensive. A couple of things. He needed some things, and I said my daughters helped out with that, and they said, here's some money, get Sam some clothes. And we got him clothes and boots and all kinds of stuff without spending a fortune. And I took him to the Man Cave, and he had a nice, buxom, young, good-looking lass cutting his hair and massaging his scalp. And it was, yes, a not an ill-reputable house of man caveism.
That's
It
nice.
was a reputable place, and he looked good. He got a haircut. Man, he looked good. And we worked together. And then within that first 2 weeks after that is when he was getting all these calls. This woman would call him and distract him and pull him off. Him thinking he's going to be a father. What do I need to do, Dad? I need to go back home. I said, no. I said, right now, you do not need to go back home. I said, number one, and all the guys, we all sat down and talked to him. Son, if that is your child, that's going to open up a different door. We'll have a different conversation at that time. I said, right now, I said, you don't even know for sure that she's pregnant. And trust me, there were other details that the first, call it intuition, call it whatever you will. I almost did an ole there. Ole! Call it something. Ole! And there was something that said red lights going off. Sam, there's something about this. She's not being honest with you. And he got a little tired of it at first. Dad, I need to go home. I need to get a car and go home. And what he was calling home. And I said, no. I said, just hold off. Let's wait and see. And of course, as it turned out, she's not pregnant. And it was all a farce. And she was, having sex with his old buddy out there in Carolina. And she was trying to get him to come back. And she wanted that lifestyle. And it was not don't get in your mind the picture of sophisticated people that do their thing and they enjoy that kind of lifestyle. When I say lifestyle, this is talking, think about your lowest level income level of people that do things and they get used to doing things a certain way, of living certain ways that you go, and for me, and trust me, I wasn't being a snob, but there was part of me, it was just, even talking about it, I just want to go, I don't even want to think of that kind of lifestyle.
Exactly. Oh, I
know. And with the drugs and with the dirtiness and the everything's in ill repair and nothing is, and so that's what it was. And I said, son, I said, look me in the eyes. I said, you're a man. Make a man out of yourself. I said, and before we knew if she was pregnant, it was wait and find out. Find out. Give it a little time here. I am here, son. I am here to help you if you need the help. Let's see what's going on. And of course, it turned out we were all right. She was playing him big time. And for what reason, I don't know. And she was younger than him. I think she was only 18.
I think
And
those kind of people pray. They kind of pray. I think that some people come into your life and your dynamics of the relationship can change. So maybe he
yes,
met her and she seemed great, but you have to ask yourself, if the dynamics change and the friend becomes a drain, or
yes,
married, my grandmother would come round and give my dad a check of money, and she'd say, "That's not for the family, that's for you to go out with the boys and have a drink with."
oh my,
And yet the family was struggling desperately, and my mum was like, "But that money could go on the house
yeah,
and the kids." No, 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 no. A man must have his time with his friends.
oh
And she
boy,
used to interfere so much that most of her children moved country to get away from them, except for my parents, and she helped destroy my parents' marriage, which was one of the factors. And I think that if you've got someone in your life, like you and Rainey, let's use your example, and someone comes into your life and all of a sudden they're taking a lot of your time and attention, Rainey's going to notice that, and she's
yes,
not going to like it. And it's like, you got to have that conversation. Boundaries.
yes,
This is how much time you get. This is how much time, you've got to have a happy medium.
yes, and that's very true. And you've got to have that happy medium. By the way, we've gone over on the radio show, so the radio show is over. If you would like to call in, you can. There is the link. I also linked it up in the chat room. If you want to call in and give us a piece of your mind, we'll
Yeah, I
take
know
it.
she was there
But
totally. She was an awful mother-in-law. In fact,
yes,
when she was younger, she used to encourage her sons to beat the daughter if she stepped out of line. Sometimes, just because we're blood family with someone, we
mm-hmm.
don't have to put up with their crap, and we don't have to be like, "Oh, you got to do this." It's you've got to put up with this behavior. No, you don't. You don't have to
Yeah,
put up with behavior that's toxic and draining and being abused and used. You don't put up
yes,
with that behavior. And also, if someone else doesn't respect your relationship and they cross that boundary, you have to bring them back in it.
you do.
And sometimes we lose ourselves, we say things we don't mean because we're feeling rejected, or we're feeling angry, or we're
Everybody does that.
fearful.
Everybody does that.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And I see that Colleen writes a lot about, she has this very difficult relationship with her
Yes.
mother-in-law. Been there, done it. Sandra, my dad's mum didn't like it when they moved out of our house to their. Yeah, you see, it's just, my mum should have married someone completely different, but my grandparents, or rather my nan, interfered and stopped it. And it's
Oh my.
like, I just don't understand why people, we're all guilty of it. At one point in our life, we have done it. But
Yes.
when you're older, you can look at it from an outside point of view and go, been there, done it, ticked it off, seen that happen before.
Yes.
And all you can do is advise someone and guide them and say, you do know what's going on there, don't you? But some people don't want to hear it.
No. We hear what we want to hear sometimes in those situations, and we do what we have to. I am one that would always offer my kids a place to be. And Rainey didn't quite understand that when we were first together. I think she does now with our
Yeah.
kids, because we have kids now, and she's got kids of her own now. With me, but now she gets that. She understands that. Now we don't want to be doing things to the detriment of our children. Uh, 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 what are the words I'm looking for? To make them less responsible or fulfill their obligations or things like that. But we want them to always know there's always a place here if you need a place to fall, and that This exists for you for that reason. That is what a parent is supposed to do.
But what if the
And
children are the third person? What if you meet someone and you might not have kids and they do, and the children become the third person? Obviously, that's very important. They're the
yeah,
kids,
yeah,
but the children interfere and the children cause problems. And what was just something really nice and special, now the kids are sticking their oar in. Do you have to see her again? Do you have to spend all that time? You know, I remember when my mum remarried, I never liked my stepfather, not Harry, the one that passed, but my other stepfather. And I hated him. I
yeah.
resented him every single way. And I was only 13 at the time. My parents had divorced, and I just didn't want this person. What do you do when your children cause problems in your relationship and you may not be the
Right.
mother or the father? What do you do? Because then it's the kids.
Yes. That can be a problem. I know when Rainey and I first got together, I was a single, sole custodial dad of 3 kids. A 4-year-old son and twin daughters who were 12 going on 13. And Rainey walked into that situation. She liked me before I should think she always knew I had kids, but had not experienced them up close and personal until it was basically, it was what is the year now? 2005, 2000. It was 18 years ago this month,
Wow. Wow.
August, that she walked into my life and started seeing my family up close.
Mhm.
And she wanted to be there. She was a great stepmom. Were there things and times where the whole step thing, the other kids became the other, never really the third party that drew us apart from each other, but it was something that she had to adapt to, because I told there was a favorite line of mine in the remake you remember The Parent Trap, the Disney movie
Yes,
from the
I
50s
do.
or the 60s,
Yeah.
and they did the remake with Dennis Quaid and I can't Richardson was her last name, I think.
Natasha Richardson.
Natasha Richardson. And
Hmm.
then Lindsay Lohan when she was a cute, innocent little kid, playing the twins. And there was something, they were, of course, trying to get their parents back together. And he was dating some little hotsy thing that wanted him for his money. And when they finally got her in a position where their dad realized this, um, I remember, and it was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. He says this woman says to him, "Well," she said, and she holds herself up as this glorious, good-looking woman. "It's either me or them. Make your choice." And he's standing there, and he goes, "That's easy. Them." And she's gone. Now she was the party coming in that was obviously the gold digger and so on. So she was a bad character in the movie anyway. But you've got sometimes situations where something Rainey never did to me, she never pitted me against my children.
Hmm.
And my children never pitted me against her or her against me. They all worked very hard to get along. They had their moments, but it was always something that Rainey was willing to do. She never held that over. The kids were never so and I'm basically telling you that to do the storytelling part of that, to tell the story that this stuff it's out there, but we did not experience it that way.
It would
But
be nice to have a relationship with the children and
Mhm.
actually get on and be seen as a friend, or
And she
not.
had that relationship with them.
And the fact is, but it's natural also to be scared and fearful that this
Yes,
person is going to take away your dad or someone you love. In my case, it was my mum.
right.
Because abandonment is very, very important. Because when, for instance, my dad left when I was 7, and I was abandoned really by him. And, that stays with you as a kid. And abandonment can make you do a lot of things. It can make you go, um, you know, coming back to the point with the children, the kids could fear that they get, and a lot of people they do move away from their children. They don't see their children as much, because I have a friend who's Bulgarian. Her mum died, and her dad remarried again, another woman, and the kids hate her. They hate her with their passion. They have no relationship with her, and now what happened is they don't talk to their dad. They don't see their dad, because now I think it's not about interrupting that relationship, because if it's a healthy relationship, you sit down and talk about it and go, listen, no matter what, I love you, I'm your dad, I'm your mum, I'm not going anywhere, but I also have the opportunity to love this person. It's a very, very different love. And I think that sometimes in a friendship, and I'm using my one as an example, if there'd been that conversation with, look, my time with you is so precious and important, and that you get shown that it's important to you. You get shown that it's being equal. You wouldn't perhaps feel so rejected. And I know as I was growing up, there was always that fear of being abandoned, not because she did anything to show it, but it was my own insecurity.
Yeah. I get that. And I will say this too about, there was one time where I used that line on Rainey. We were in a rough place. And this is about, you remember these times, this is about 5-6 years ago. And I used, and everybody listen to me when I say this, I used the line, you're going to have to choose between me and your family. Now,
and sometimes you have to say that.
I was not giving her an ultimatum that was, it's me or your family, and if you choose your family, I'm gone. It was one that says, look at where your loyalties lie. Look at what we've got, kids together. Where do you want to focus your energy? Do you want to focus your energy on this family and making this work and making this be right and making it be the best it can be? Or do you want to do the pull the pin on the grenade, so to speak, and fall back on the easy and just, I got my family, I can go stay at my mom's, I can bring the kids with me? And I said, what are you going to put first? Are you going to put first your mom and the family? Or are you going to put first your husband and your kids and your family? And it was one that it was meant to be jarring. It was meant to jog. It was not meant to go, it's me or them, or the highway or my way. It wasn't that kind of thinking. But there are times where you have to call some things out and say, now, this wasn't the huge problem that was going on. It was a minor part of the problem, and it needed to be dealt with. If we're going to deal with us, we have to deal with us from the standpoint of us, not us from the standpoint of your family as the buffer.
But sometimes you have to give that it's them or me, because if it's unhealthy for you, if it's causing you problems, and you have to kind of look.
Got a little freeze up there. There you go.
Carlene was married, and she was having the mother, like coming in and causing problems, and she has to make a choice. Does she stay in the marriage, or does she leave it? And obviously they might have had kids. I don't know the ins and outs. So it's like, sometimes you have to make a choice, and you have to say, I choose none of you, or I choose you, or I choose them, and we've all done it. I've done it. You can have this, but you can't have it both. And people go, why can't I have it both? Because it doesn't work for the other person.
Right.
The person who doesn't want to choose wants to have, it works for both, it works for them, but it's not helping. So I think when you talk about that situation, it's very hard to come into a family where there are children from another marriage, because already they're pitted, you're pitted against the mother that was there before in their eyes. And she was obviously younger and nearer their age, not nearer their age, but you know what I mean? She was younger.
Kind of halfway in between my oldest kids and me.
So. She's seen as a threat. You're going to take my dad away. My dad's going to follow you. And I think it's the same with friendship. I have felt that about my friends in time, you know, and I go right back to being as a kid and seeing this. But my mum, you know, my mum's always said to me, you need to be careful of your friends when you have a partner or a husband, because sometimes your friends act as if they've got your best interests at heart. Right. But actually underneath the surface,
it's their
got their own issues.
Yes. Hey, I see Carlene is sitting here in the wings. I'm going to bring her in, but forgive me, everybody. I'm going to step away for a couple of minutes. It's not what you think. I'd just say I got to pee if I had to pee. So I got to step away for a couple of minutes, but I'm going to bring Carlene in. Carlene, welcome to the show. You can take over for me for a minute. I'll be right back.
Hi, Wendy. Glad to see you guys back.
Thank you.
What a subject we're dealing with. I call her, quite frankly, the mother-in-law from hell.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of mother-in-laws because I've been married more than once. But she's done everything I can to win her over. Doesn't work. I mean, you can bend over backwards, upside down, inside out. Doesn't work. I mean, she's come to the point of accusing me of stealing from her when I'm not even at her house. And finally, I had to lay it on the line to my husband. I said, you know, you got to walk away. I said, you know, it's sorry. I said, you could talk to her, but it's me or her at this point. And, you know, it doesn't make me feel great to make him make that decision. But like I said, the day we got married, she sat in the front row of the church, told my mother and the minister, this is the worst day of my life. I told her the other day, you should have stayed to freak home then.
That is so cruel, because it's almost like, I wish he'd married the other girlfriend. I liked her. I don't like this one.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was getting married, my ex-mother-in-law, this is the first time, she was nothing but critical and she didn't do anything supportive. And my ex-husband went round and he said, you got two options. You either change your attitude and make an effort, or you've lost a son, because that's my wife. And that was I never asked him to do that. I never did, but he did it off his own back, because he was like, this is my relationship. This is my marriage. This is important. And the fact is, you know, sometimes, you know, relationships with the families are the hardest because they're blood. And she obviously saw you as, you're going to take you away. You know, you're going to take her son away.
I mean, I don't know if I technically really told him that, you know, you're going to make a choice. It kind of was a mutual decision. And it's like, you know, I understand she's older and she needs your help. But, you know, I've been over backwards every way but Sunday to help this woman. And literally, she's called the cops on me. Oh, she came in my house at 3:00 this morning and stole my slippers. Well, that's funny. I was at work. Really hard to do.
Me about that. It's like, yeah, the great slipper thief.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, and like I said, he calls her once a week, checks on her. That's fine. She doesn't understand. Well, I need to go somewhere. Well, you cannot go in my car because you wear perfume, and my wife has asthma and COPD and can't breathe. You want to not wear your perfume? We will take you. She's like, I do what I want. Well, guess what? That means you sit your ass home and do nothing.
Yeah.
And in the whole time, like I said, I've been listening to you guys. And the whole time I says, you know, we've had to lay the law down to her. And as much as I'm like, well, you know what? She's getting what's coming to her. It doesn't make me feel great. I mean, I'm not that type of person to say, well, I won't help you because you won't do this. It's come down to a health issue that, you know, it just can't happen.
Yeah. And it's
Thing of-
understandable. And sometimes you have to do
to-
that.
And you're moving away as well, Carlene, to actually
Oh yeah,
have a life.
that's that's really got her pissed off. And I'm like, well,
When you
I
have
need.
to move away,
Hmm?
when you have to move away from a, when you have to put distance between them, that's when it tells you how bad your life has become.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
actually go, I need to move, I need to get the fuck out of here,
yeah,
because this is like taking my life over, this is draining my life.
yeah,
I've always said, if someone interferes so much it's toxic, you've got to put miles between you.
yeah,
You have to start distancing
yeah,
yourself. So if the friend or the in-law is causing issues, you have
hmm,
to have that boundary, distance
You do.
yourself and go, Mum, that's Carlene, that's my wife. You're being disrespectful. You're my mum and I love you, but you're being disrespectful about her. And
yeah.
maybe, did he say that? Did he do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's had several conversations with her, and her answer is, "I didn't do anything wrong." And I finally asked her the other day when he was talking to her. I said, "What are you going to do when he's 600 miles away?" And she told her senior solutions guy, "Well, she told me I couldn't call him when he moved away." I said, "I didn't say that." I asked her, "What are you going to do when we're 600 miles away?"
Yep. By the way, see you, Barbie D. Thanks for being here today. You have a
Thanks,
good
Barbara.
evening.
I mean, I have a mother-in-law who lives just up the road from me. I can actually throw a rock at her house, ex-mother-in-law. The sweetest woman in the world. If I cook a big meal, I take her something. She's getting up there in age, having health issues. She loves the cookies from Walmart. I'll go shopping. I'll bring her cookies, and that means the world to her. And this is the kind of stuff, his mother be, "Oh, I want this." So I would actually, when I had time, I would go to different stores, try to find this thing that, okay, this is what she wants. Let's see if we can find it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, she's just plain. It's about her. Doesn't matter who he's dating.
Sure.
They're the most horrid person until he breaks up with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I said, it finally. I said the move is due to health issues, but it also has to do with her. It's like if I don't get away from
Well,
her, it's like this isn't going to work. I've told my husband finally, we want to put this marriage together and keep it together. We need to get away from her.
My brother felt very, I don't want to use the word, when I got married and I went to Canada, he was like, "Why are you going there? Why do you need to go there? You're British. You just, you belong in Britain." And I was like, because I love him and I want to spend my life with him. And but what he was losing his driver. He was losing his person to hang out with.
sure.
He was losing the person who helped give him money or picked him up when he'd had a drink or whatever. People can be really selfish for the reasons why they want to hold on to you and cause you problems. So you probably saw you as, as a threat, even if it's in, as I said, unconscious or a conscious way of doing it. I think people know. If they know they're causing strife in a relationship and they act like they don't know, then that's the dangerous one, because they're like, I'm not doing anything. I would never cause problems. But yet you are. You are. So I hear you.
Yep. Oh yeah, her big thing is I didn't do anything, and we've had her counselors talk to her, and we've had her people who help take care of her talk to her, and she's, "I don't do anything wrong." I'm like, why doesn't nobody at all cater to you? You are showing your true colors. Anybody tries to help you. I mean, she had this so-called boyfriend, and she ticked him off, and she still tried. Well, I don't know why he left, because you treated him like garbage.
I think we all do it for our own reasons, don't we? I mean, I think when something new comes in or something different and changes your life, and if it's not in a good way, as I said, if it's not in a productive way, if it's not positive, and it just makes you miserable and it just makes you angry and resentful and sad, you have to get out. You have to get out of it, because if you don't get out of it, you will just be dragged down in it. And I'm glad that you're moving, Carlene, because finally you will have peace of mind in some way.
I mean, we'll keep track of her. We'll come visit her regularly. We know she has relatives right nearby that will look after her. And it's just like, you can't keep destroying our marriage. I love my husband to pieces, but living here within 5 miles of this woman is like, you got to be kidding me. It's taking its toll. And we have to put a stop to that because she doesn't understand that what you're doing is not right. It's uncalled for. You need to stop if you want to have a relationship with your son.
Scotty, we can't hear you. I don't think your mic's.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
So,
It was just like I live in there, and I was like, "What was that you were saying?" Yeah.
well, Carlene, thank you for calling
Yeah.
in. I'm gonna start wrapping things up here out of necessity.
Thanks for
Yep.
sharing. Carl.
We'll see you next time. We'll see you over on Intrepid Radio tomorrow night. It's nice to have you and Everin members over there on the Patreon. So good to see you today. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, you guys have a good night, and like I said, glad to see you back.
You too. Thank you
so much. Thank you.
All right, Wendy. It's just you and me now.
It's just us. No one's watching or listening. Let's just talk.
Whatever shall we talk about?
Well, I'm sure
I do have to. Yeah. I do have to leave. We've been going an hour and a half, and you got to go to bed. So I'll wait till you're all tucked in, and then I'll call you.
Wake me up. Yeah. Hi. How you doing? But it's nice to be back. It's really nice to be back with you, Scotty. I've missed it, and I was a bit nervous. 100%. I'm not 100%, but I'm glad to be back. So I'm guys, and I missed you. So I'm glad to be home.
And even though I talked with you a few times over this several weeks, it's good to be back with you here. It's good to be. I've missed doing this with you, and so it's good to be back in the saddle, so to speak. And we'll talk again some more. And folks, we will be back next Tuesday, and present something I think just as interesting and hopefully useful as what we did today.
And it has to be, we have to keep to time because I have to have an operation the next day. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you may or may not be here next week, depending on your anxiety levels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you for being here. And
thank you.
I know Wendy thanks you for being here profusely. And we'll see you next time. And we've got 26 more weeks before our next season break.
Apparently.
So stand by. And we'll see you later. And you know what? Live long and prosper.